Because of how much time I personally spend playing Eve Echoes and Infinite Lagrange, most of the other games that I have installed on my phone are offline, single-player titles that are usually a one-time purchase download. You've seen me talk at length about the likes of Crying Suns, Pirates, Bad North, Iron Marines, and so on elsewhere on this channel. It's exceptionally rare that I end up getting stuck into another online multiplayer game, especially since so many of them have servers that are impossibly far from Zimbabwe. I used to love playing Armajet, for example, but the lag caused by server distance just rendered it unplayable for me. This is a constant issue for myself and other gamers across southern Africa. I was skeptical then, when a friend of mine, Matt, recommended that I download and try out a game called Mech Arena. Even more so, as I'd seen the game advertised fairly heavily across the internet, including on YouTube, and most of games like this have disappointed me heavily, whether it's AFK Arena, Warpath, or the other multitude of Match 3 games. Looking at the Google Play page for Mech Arena, I also got flashbacks to games like War Robots, Full Metal Monsters, and Star Combat, the latter of those I have actually covered on this channel as well in the past. Games that promised an exciting arena shooter experience, but ultimately just delivered a pay-to-win, laggy experience, and those games rarely exited early access. But I hit download anyway, and gave it a try. Now, to say that Mech Arena gave me War Robot vibes would be an understatement. I prefer the graphical style and mech design here, for sure, but the concept of gameplay is almost identical. Now, for those unfamiliar, the basic gameplay loop is that you collect a garage of different mechs and weapons, outfit them, and send them into the arena to fight, where you earn currency to upgrade your mechs and weapons as you climb your way through the leagues. It's a simple yet rewarding loop that I personally enjoy, and the mech variety here is pretty solid and engaging too. On one end you have small, nimble mechs with light armour and weaponry. On the other, you have hulking behemoths with heavy firepower and incredible durability. In between, however, is a plethora of support options and mid-range combat mechs. Add in a variety of weapons from missiles, pulse cannons, energy beams, mortars, sniper rifles, and so many more, and you have an incredible amount of variety in your possible loadouts. Then there are the maps, and there are tons of these too. Many are visually distinct from each other, though there are some, especially the deathmatch maps set around cargo shipping containers, which look a little bit too uniform and samey for my tastes. As you'd expect, some are definitely better than others, but the overall quality is good. There are plenty of maps that are great fun to play on, offering strategic versatility, but only a handful of ones that are disappointing to see after loading in. None of them feel outright bad, but many of the maps will favour certain weapons above others. Maps with roofs and ceilings offer protection from mortars, and winding, cluttered maps deny solid sniping positions, for example. Now, this does mean that a map may render one of your mechs completely useless, but this promotes variety in your team, I suppose. Make sure you have a mech built for any occasion. There are several game modes too. You'll start off with only access to Control Point Clash, where teams face off to capture nodes, which will earn them points as the match progresses. First team to 100 points, or first team to annihilate every mech on the enemy team, wins. These can get pretty tense later on, further up the divisions, and I've had matches that look like all hope is gone as the enemy counter creeps towards the 100 mark, only to squeeze out a victory at the last moment by finishing off the last mech in the enemy team. The same has happened in reverse, where I've been the last mech standing, desperately trying to survive long enough just to sneak that win in. There are also simple death matches in both a 2v2 and 5v5 variety. These see teams score points by destroying enemy mechs within a time limit, though again, team elimination results in an automatic win for the opposition. Deathmatches are scored on a best of 3 rounds system, which can make for some clutch plays as teams scramble to take victory in a second or third round, but ultimately, many of the deathmatch arenas are pretty standard and look very similar, which is disappointing. Whilst none of them are outright bad, I don't believe, I do prefer the variety and fun of Control Point Clash personally. There are also tournaments which require tickets to enter and see you fight for placing across 6 heats, with final scoring at the end of the week. These seem to always be death matches and always tense matches, as everyone really seems to bring their A game. Unfortunately, it can be frustrating to climb to the top spot in a heat, go to bed with several hours left in your heat, and wake up the next morning to find that someone else has spent the time grinding a several thousand point lead over you that you simply don't have the tickets or the time to claw back. And this is where Mech Arena does come undone a little for me. Due to the ability to purchase these tournament tickets and the way that tournaments are scored by cumulative points, it's possible to just keep buying tickets, scoring average games, and just make yourself impossible to catch up to. And since tournament rewards are really lucrative for the winners, this feels very much like a rich getting richer scenario. I would really like to see either a cap to the number of games possible, or better yet, a rolling average system where additional games can increase your score if you do well, but could even lower your average if you have a succession of bad matches. Now, I need to be clear, this is ultimately my biggest complaint in Mech Arena, but it is still a fairly small one. I just don't personally engage in the tournaments all that much, and stick to the more casual control point clash 5v5 and 2v2 death matches. Monetization isn't overly heavy either. Mechs and weapons can be upgraded by having both enough of the relevant blueprint and credits to purchase the upgrade. These are both found in random crates found through standard gameplay. You can purchase crates, of course, but I rarely found myself feeling the need to. For the most part, the upgrades are relatively minor. Upgrading a mech may increase its health, and weapon upgrades usually increase damage or ammo capacity, even things like projectile velocity or clip size, but these feel fairly minor, and I never felt like I was losing just because my weaponry or health wasn't good enough. There are definitely some powerful incentives to upgrading certain mechs. Often increasing the rank of a mech will increase its energy output, and thus the size and variety of weapon that it can fit. As an example, early on, my Shadow had only 8 points of energy, allowing it to only fit 2 Javelin 4 systems. Upgrading its rank once increased the energy to 10, allowing me to swap one of those for a Javelin 6, and having reached the next rank and thus 12 energy, my Shadow now has 2 Javelin 6s, which is a significant firepower increase over the original variant using 2 Javelin 4s. Now the thing is, whilst this sounds like you can pay to win, and it is certainly possible to dump a lot of money in order to upgrade everything, all you're going to achieve here is stomping new players as you race up the ranks, where you'll eventually crash face first into players with the same mechs and equipment, earned over time through gameplay and skill. In short, the upgrades are ultimately pretty minor, and do give an excellent sense of progression as you increase your rank and expand your inventory of mechs and weaponry. Currently, the game can be pretty aggressive with how in-your-face monetization can be. You'll often have flash sales thrown up at you after a match, and some of these can be pretty expensive, offering the option of buying weapon systems or even mechs ahead of their scheduled unlock for sometimes as much as £65. Having played with many of these mechs eventually though, I'm not sure that paying for them early on would have done much for me, as my usual lineup does still include several of the early unlock mechs. It just doesn't feel like a power creep. Balance has also felt pretty solid. Plenty of weapons I'd dismissed as weak ended up completely wrecking me on several occasions, and I've ended up trying out almost everything available. Again, like the mechs, even the early unlock weapons do have a place. One of my most celebrated mechs is the Humble Lancer, using RPGs, common quality weapons. There are achievements that you can unlock for more currency, constant in-game events to keep you coming back for more, and it is of course possible to play with friends. There's no clan system yet, something I hope that they do eventually add, but inviting friends to a battle is really a quite simple affair and very rewarding. All in all, Mech Arena feels like a solid game that, whilst not perfect, has absolutely grabbed the attention of my local friendship group. Even Carrie, my wife, plays. It's addictive, excellent fun, and feels very much more pay to advance quicker, not pay to win. Monetization may often seem to be right up in your face, but ultimately it isn't necessary to buy into it at all, I don't feel. It's a fun game with a lot of versatility and tactical variety, and if you like arena shooters or mech combat games, this one is definitely worth your attention. In the description below, you'll find my invite link, so click it and give Mech Arena a go. Happy sailing, and see you in the arena!